History has a funny way of repeating itself, especially when the people repeating it aren't exactly telling the full story. Many of the clean, easy, wholesome facts you learn in history class would earn you a big fat F in real life. Here are a few historical lies that will make you rethink your entire education. The British are coming. If your dusty old history books are to be believed, the build-up to the American Revolutionary War was pretty dramatic. Paul Revere rode through a bunch of towns on horseback screaming, "The British are coming!" and everyone freaked out and got their guns, and the war started the next day. As it turns out, that only sort of happened. Revere did ride to Lexington, Massachusetts to warn everybody, but the actual quote was way different. According to the website for the Paul Revere House, a sentry at the house where Adams and Hancock were told Revere to keep the noise down, to which Revere replied dramatically, "Noise? You'll have noise enough before long. The regulars are coming out." That's not nearly as catchy, but sometimes the truth sucks. Napoleon Complex. Everybody knows that the famous French military leader Napoleon Bonaparte was actually super short. According to the persistent myth, Napoleon stood a measly 5 foot 2 inches. It didn't stop him from kicking ass during the war, but the myth became infamous enough that a psychologist coined the term Napoleon Complex, used to describe people who make up for their short height by being extra aggressive. Of course, these days we just call them Joe Pesci. But the thing is, Napoleon wasn't even that short. We now know that he was actually more along the lines of 5'6", or more to the point, the average height at the time. How did history get it so wrong? His height was lost in translation between French and British measurements, and then some healthy propaganda finished the job. Newton's apple. When the history of Isaac Newton is taught, many teachers quote the old story about an apple hitting him on the head, prodding him to figure out gravity. You probably believed it in part because, duh, it's an old story, and who doesn't love a good eureka moment?
I think I just got an idea. I got glass in my face!
But again, this story is only sort of true. While Newton did supposedly put 2 and 2 together by watching an apple fall, the Royal Society in London concluded that there is no evidence to suggest that it hit him on the head. That's a bit of a bummer, but hey, he still came up with the theory of gravity, and our apple-based innovations have only gone downhill from there.
Well, we'll just tell your mother that we ate it all.
Edison's inventions. In school, we learned that Thomas Edison gave America electricity and light bulbs and a bunch of other awesome stuff. And he did, kind of, through being a monopolizing, thieving jerk. According to Ernest Freeberg, author of The Age of Edison, Edison didn't really invent the light bulb. He was just the best at telling people he invented the light bulb. In reality, he built his version on the backs of other inventions by other inventors and took all the credit. But one of Edison's worst stunts? Electrocuting animals like dogs and horses in front of paying crowds just to prove that alternating current was too dangerous to put in people's homes. He went so far as to kill a circus elephant, just to make his competing direct current seem more family-friendly. What a jerk.
I'm the Wizard of Menlo Park. Take your f***ing family on a vacation up my ass.
Good old Gandhi. The idea that Gandhi's mind was anything except pure seems almost heretical, and in fact, Gandhi's biography by Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist Joseph Levefeld has been banned in Gandhi's home state for blasphemy because it defied the popular image of Gandhi as a saint. Most of us don't know that Gandhi abandoned his wife to live with a rich male bodybuilder. A gay Gandhi is just fine, but then he went and tried to erase all references of homosexual traditions from Indian temples with his act of sexual cleansing. He then slept in bed naked with his teenage grandnieces to test his own sexual temptations. Even worse than Gandhi's hypocrisy was his terrible racism. When he and his followers were led to a lower caste jail for protesting, Gandhi wrote, "We could understand not being classed with whites, but to be placed on the same level as the natives seemed too much to put up with. As a rule, are uncivilized, the convicts even more so. They're troublesome, very dirty, and live like animals." Though Gandhi did bring some good to the world, he was still only human. Human with some seriously messed up ideas.
This is one bad mother you don't want to mess with.
World War II enthusiasm. These days you get the impression that World War II was just too good to resist for Americans. Who wouldn't want to defeat a bunch of Nazis? But Americans at the time weren't so enthusiastic. Europe seemed like another world, and the US had no place in their fight. Plus, the war meant the draft was coming back. Most people weren't interested in having a repeat of the Civil War or World War I. According to Lynn Olson's book, Those Angry Days, college students were one of the largest contingents against the war. The sentiment was so strong that students at Yale formed an anti-war group called America First. Members of the group included future influential names like Gerald Ford, Gore Vidal, and John F. Kennedy. Alamo Heroes. The battle at the Alamo is usually taught as a bunch of heroic white Americans fighting for freedom against the dastardly Mexicans. Sadly, that barely resembles what happened. When the Battle of the Alamo commenced, it was far from a war of white versus brown. Free blacks, slaves, Indians from central Mexico who spoke no Spanish, Tejanos, Mexicans who sided with the Americans, Europeans, all fought for the side of Texas. And most of the American soldiers did fight to their death. Texans spread the word of the Alamo and greatly exaggerated the tale. When the rebels and General Santa Anna's men fought again, the Texan soldiers killed any Mexicans they could find, whether they were soldiers or not. They remembered the Alamo all right, they just forgot most of the story. Even the best of us get confused about the Alamo.
Aren't we going to see the basement?
There's no basement at the Alamo.
Cherry Chopper. For decades, it seemed like American classrooms couldn't get through the Revolutionary War without teaching a story about America's first president, George Washington, famously confessed to chopping down his father's cherry tree when he was just 6 years old.
I've cut down more than cherry trees with this axe, child, by the power of America!
The story has become such an infamous myth over the years that the official website of the home of Washington, Mount Vernon, took steps to squash it once and for all. They definitively state that the whole thing was made up by Washington biographer Mason Locke Weems in 1806 for his book The Life of George Washington. Why would he make up a story like that? For the most American reason of all, of course, to make more money by selling more copies. Thanks for watching. Click the grunge icon to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Plus check out all this cool stuff we know you'll love too.